Welcome everyone to our fourth and final week of April's Advisor Ambassador Program. My name is Zach Hewells and I work in the Marketing and Communications Department at the NAFA Home Office. Today I am thrilled to be joined by Mark Aker, who's one of our NAFA trustees. Mark has been, he's a president of One Source Group and he started his company in 2007. He's licensed in property and casualty, life, and health insurance. And he also serves, in addition to the Board of Trustees, on a National Grassroots Committee and the National Young Advisors team. He was actually named one of our Young Advisors of the Year a few years back. So happy to learn from his expertise today. He will be presenting leadership in the industry and your community. This is a brand new topic. We have not done this topic yet on Advisor Ambassadors, so really excited to hear it for the first time here. And for those of you just joining us via Zoom, if you have any questions for Mark during the presentation, feel free to use the chat feature here. Send everyone a message, that way they see it. And then at the end of the presentation, we can get to the questions. But for now, I'm going to turn things over to Mark. So Mark, welcome. Good to see you, man.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Zach. This is super exciting to watch what NAFA is doing with technology to bring new and great ideas to those from their living rooms or their wherever they're at, their bathrooms even, I guess, all over the country. So it's really neat. I'm honored to be a part of the program. Well, welcome everybody. Some names I recognize, some I do not on the screen here, but it's a really exciting time. I'm really excited to be spending this next 3 or 4 hours with you to learning about leadership. I'm just kidding. Leadership in our community and in our industry. It's a good time to be a part of NAFA. Doing some really great things, and this is just one of the many things that's happening in NAFA that's pretty awesome. So this here is a picture of 2014, the many years ago that I won that award that Zach mentioned. We were at this establishment, and there you see 2 of our national presidents, our national trustee, and 3 other Athlete of the Year award winners. And this brotherhood has continued for a long time, and that's something NAFA's afforded me, and you can never get repaid in coin what this brotherhood has given me in my life and my career. But really cool, a cool moment for me that I thought I'd share with you. So we're gonna talk about leadership in our industry, in our community. Hopefully you gain something from our time together. My challenge for you is this. I've sat through many of these talks, whether it be online or in person, and many talks or many videos or whatever you want to call this, I've walked out of and gone, you know what, that really impacted me. When I go back to my office or go back to my work or however I lead in my community and my industry, I'm going to do this or make these changes. Even just one small change can make a difference in how you lead as an individual in our industry. And I've also walked out of many opportunities when I've sat in front of screens like this or sat in rooms and I've got nothing from it. Now, I'm not going to guarantee you I have great content, but I promise you at least 1 or 2 things might resonate with you. And my hope is that you take something, just one thing, and put it into play in your life and watch yourself change as a leader in your industry and in your community. One of my favorite quotes of all time, and I love this picture, of course, so some of those same brothers in that picture from the picture before, but this is us in Washington, D.C. wearing our very fashion faux pas red jackets that we get when we win the award. We're standing in front of the Washington Monument. But this quote that I love in our industry and for what we do as leaders is smart people learn from their mistakes, but wise ones learn from mistakes of others. And let me tell you, these 4 guys in this picture besides me have made a bunch of mistakes. And so it's imperative that we as leaders identify those around us who we can glean things from in our industry to learn from. And as a leader, it's good to always be working towards learning how to make yourself better. And our industry is very cool, and we've been around over 100 years. We're not like Jeff Bezos when he created Amazon in 1994, when no one really knew what the internet was. We're in an industry that has longevity. It's been around for a very long time. Our consumers know exactly what we are and what we do, and it's very repeatable. And so as you're being mentored by others in NAFA or others in our industry, I'd encourage you to pay attention to their successes as well as to their failures, and more importantly, their failures, because then hopefully you don't make the same mistake they made. And so today, I hope we do the same thing. I'm going to tell you some mistakes I've made. I'm going to tell you some victories I've had, and I hope that you take this and internalize it and put it into practice as soon as possible for you to become a better leader yourself. So as a leader, it's imperative that you know who you are. It is said that everybody in this world has two weaknesses. Every one of us have two weaknesses. I know my wife, I tell her all the time, I don't have any weaknesses. She begs to differ, but I apparently do have two weaknesses according to this quote that I just made up for you for this meeting. I'm kidding. The first weakness that we all have is there's something that we do really, really well, that we just excel at, that we don't really recognize as a great strength of ours. And we just expect others around us to be as good as us, if not better. And that could be one for you, right? But the other weakness we have is there's a weakness that we have, right? That's something we're not very good at, that we also don't know we're not very good at. So I'll give an example for you. Michael Jordan, I'm not sure if you guys have watched The Last Dance the last couple of weeks on ESPN, the only sports thing happening on ESPN these days. But they show him in his last season with the Bulls and how they won the championship. We all know the story, but you get to see the inner workings of Michael Jordan. He's one of the greatest players of all time in NBA history, right? And Michael Jordan was so great, but he had a weakness. And his weakness was he expected everyone else on the team to shoot as good as him, to play as good a defense. He expected Scottie Pippen to be as agile and diverse and attacking the ball. He expected Bill Cartwright to set better screens like Michael Jordan would. He expected everyone to rise to his level, and they just couldn't because he was so much better than them. So much so that he actually punches Bill Cartwright in the face in practice one day, right? He just could not grasp the thought that he was so much better and couldn't figure out why he was. And so if you are like Michael Jordan, I hope that you are like Michael Jordan in your practice. If you're like him, this is a big downfall because it will create animosity amongst you and your team members that you're leading, and it will create impatience with them, that you'll become less patient with them as they're working through things. So that's one big problem, right? And the other is that weakness that you don't know about. And the problem is you might not ever figure out what that problem is because the quote says you don't know it, right? But the way to figure it out is to continue to examine yourself and make sure that you know who you are and what you're good at and what you're bad at. One of the best ways to do that is through what we call a SWOT analysis. You might have heard of this in the business world. We take our businesses, we do SWOT analysis, we identify the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the businesses we work in. But I want to encourage you today to take the time and take a regular look at yourself in the mirror frequently, whether it be monthly, quarterly, whatever you think is best for your practice, and do a SWOT analysis on you. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities to get better? And what could threaten your ability to be a better leader? The key is to be patient and be compassionate to everyone around you and help raise them to a higher level like you to continue to improve your ability as a leader to lead. This here is Deb Coulter. If you've been involved with me for very long, you might have heard of Leadership and Life Institute. It's Lily for short. Deb was a national chair of NAFA, Lily last year, and I'm very fortunate enough to have her. She was my Lily moderator too in 2011, and she actually works in my practice now. I loved her so much that I made sure that I recruited her tail into our organization. But Lily came for me at a crucial time. In 2011, I was 3 years into starting my own practice from scratch. I was on the verge of really bailing out of my practice. I wasn't sure I was doing the right things. My business acumen score was terrible. I just wasn't doing some things I needed to do to be successful. And I was going in the wrong direction. And I was approached to take Lily because I'm a member of NAFA. And they said, Mark, you have to take it. And, at the time, we didn't have a scholarship program in place. So I think it was $700 or something like that. And as I said, I was in dire straits financially. And so I decided to invest in it because I felt that I'm going to double down on my ability to be a leader in my business and in my practice, in my home, and my community. And I did that, and Lily expanded my horizon. It changed my perspective on my practice and completely revolutionized what I was doing in my practice One Source Insurance Group. I owe a lot to Lily. And honestly, who knows what could have happened if I hadn't taken Lily. I could have been out of the industry in that moment. But Lily taught me new practices and new mindsets to take into my business every day. And one of the most important things it taught me was to begin with the end in mind. And those of you who've heard of it, heard of the concept, it comes from a Stephen Covey book. But one of the practices we had to do in Lilly was to write our eulogy. We had to write our eulogy from the perspective of one of our kiddos, our spouse, one of our friends, and one of our coworkers. And so you write this eulogy, then you have to read it in front of the whole class. And as you're reading it, you're saying, well, Mark as a father was at every baseball game, at every soccer game, every practice. He read to me every night, prayed with me every night. He went to lunch with me at school once a week. And none of those things am I doing right now, just because I'm doing a poor job at compartmentalizing, which we'll cover later. I do a lot, but I'm not living up to the standard I really want my kids that I want my kids to hold me to. And so the lesson is this: at the end of our life, we have an opportunity to do something now to make sure that our kids, our spouses, our friends, and coworkers all say exactly what we want them to say about us in that time. And so the lesson is, instead of thinking, I got to make $1 million tomorrow or $1 million this year, and I got to do it all tomorrow, or I got to be X for my family or X for my friends. It's an audacious goal. But the lesson is for you to wake up each morning, look yourself in the mirror and say, what am I going to do today to make sure that I am that person when our time comes 5, 10, 15, 30, 40 years for some of us down the road? What am I going to do today to be who I need to be as a father, as a wife, as a mother, as a husband for my family, and as a coworker and friend for my friends? Whatever you're doing today, examine yourself. But I also want you to think about ways you can invest in yourself. One of the best ways to do it is through Lilly. If you're a member of NAFA, there's no question that you need to do it. And if you've already done it, then kudos to you. But other ways to invest in yourself is to listen to podcasts. Simon Sinek is a magnificent teacher on leadership. I listen to him quite frequently. Read books by Stephen Covey or John Maxwell or any of the famous leadership authors. Read books to better yourself. Have accountability partners in place, like my buddies in those pictures before that I mentioned to you before. We talk often. We used to talk every week. Now it gets every other week as we're getting more busy in our work lives and more successful and with our families and those type of things. Those people hold us accountable to be the people we're called to be. Or even hire a business coach. That's my latest investment in my practice. Is last October, I hired a business coach. You might even know her. She is the first female national president of NAFA, Julie McNeely. And what she brings to me is accountability. She brings strategy and past successes that are invaluable to me now. So whatever you do as a leader, continue investing in yourself and figure out what you have to do each day to increase your leadership acumen. This is an easy one, quick and easy one. As a leader, it's important that you love the people you lead. In my interview process, as I bring people onto our team, I always tell them every single time without fail, I always tell them, I will want this for you, your success for you, whether you're an agent, whether you're an advisor, whether you are an account manager, whatever you do in our practice, I will always want this for you to be successful. Then you'll want it for yourself. I know it's audacious, but my hope is that they'll eventually prove me wrong in an effort to be successful themselves. Some of my best teaching moments and leadership moments for my team have been not when I've been teaching how coverage works or how a process works or how to prospect better or any of those moments. It's really been when I've said, hey Josh, how are you? Hey Abby, how's the family? How are you feeling? How's this transition been from your job at the hospital to working here at OneSource? And those times lead to terrific conversations. And I learned so much about them in that process of just talking to them. I learned about their goals. I learned about their dreams, what they're set out to do, what's working, what's not working, and how I can help build them a little bit better. So my challenge for you is this: invest in your people that you lead. Invest in them financially if you can, but also invest in them with time. And time is one of the most valuable resources we have. If you give that to somebody and they feel how you feel about them and how much you care about them, they're going to want to fight with you whether you're on the same level as them, whether you're their superior. They'll always respect how you lead them, and they'll give you more from your time spent with them than anything. In 2006, I was a 26-year-old punk, and I'd just gotten promoted to be a manager of 22 agents for our company that I was with before I started my own practice. And I happened to be in the same town seeing clients with an agent I was training as the business that my father-in-law runs. And I walk into this jewelry store, and I have this new agent with me that I'm training, and his name was Jeff. And I remember his name from, I won't tell you, 13 ago. Now you can tell how old I am, I guess. But Jeff was a good guy, just brand new, fresh agent, and taking a leap into our industry. And I was the one in charge of making sure he was successful. So I walked into my father-in-law's store, and I said, hey, Pop-in-law, this is Jeff. Jeff works for me. Jeff, this is my Pop-in-law. Meet each other, right? And that's how I introduced Jeff to my father-in-law in that process. And that night, I had a 3-hour drive home from my father-in-law's business to where I lived at the time. And my father-in-law called me on my drive home, and he said, hey, son-in-law, I want to ask you a question. He said, how do you think Jeff felt about how you introduced you to me to him and him to me? And I was like, well, he felt fine. I mean, he didn't, do anything funny or anything. I didn't say anything inappropriate. He said, well, Mark, you said when you introduced him, you said, Jeff, this is Jeff. He works for me. Well, Jeff was a 40-something-year-old man, and I was a 26-year-old young doofus. And he said, Mark, how do you think a 40-something-year-old man feels hearing that he works for you, a 26-year-old kid, to him? And I quickly realized how my error in my ways, and realized my language needed to change. So I, as a leader in that moment, called Jeff that night and apologized to him and said, hey, I didn't mean anything by it. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. And Jeff was super grateful, and he confirmed what my father-in-law had said, And so I'd encourage you as a leader to be cognitive of the words and titles that you're placing on people. Do remember that people don't remember what you say. They remember how you make them feel. We've all heard that before. But it might be your perspective and your language needs to change. I hate titles. I hate them. I hate account manager. I hate CSR, receptionist, because in our world, we really don't have titles. I try to make sure when I use words, I say we're a team. We work together. If one person fails, we all fail, right? If we mess up something, we all lose in the situation, and we celebrate each other. And we make sure that we're using the right language in our practice. One of my first books I ever read in leadership was this book by John Maxwell called The 360-Degree Leader. And the quick 30,000-foot view teaches us that we as leaders lead in all directions in the hierarchy. I hate hierarchies as well, just so you know. But traditionally, we're taught that as leaders, we lead down, right? People are below us. They work for us. They're little minions that do things for us to make us money, right? That is what we're taught traditionally in the hierarchy of leadership. But that's not the case. This book challenges you to think as a person, whether you're the head of your company, the CEO, the president, or whatever you are, or you're a brand new agent, or you're a brand new receptionist, or whatever you are in your practice. It teaches us that we're taught to, yes, we have to lead down, right, to people who are looking up to us for guidance and support and training. We're also taught to lead to the side of each other. People who are on the same level, maybe they make the same amount of money, or have been there the same amount of time. We're taught to lead them as well. And even yet, we're also taught to lead up to people. We're taught to lead up to our superiors, people who have either maybe hired us or trained us, or who are in charge of us, if you will. And as a leader in my organization, I love hearing my team members lead up. Nothing encourages me more to hear people who are below in the hierarchy, right, come to me and say, hey, Mark, I really think if we put this in place, this could push our organization to the next level, or we could make better use of our talents here, or make our customer service be better by doing this. So leading in all different directions. So that's the challenge. Be a leader that finds ways to lead everyone in the organization, people that are below us, people that are beside us, and people that are also above us. All right. Myth, work-life balance. This is my favorite. Let me share something with you. This is not possible if you're a high achiever. It's not possible. We all talk about it. We all heard people talk about it. It's just not possible. As a leader, I want you to think of the work and life domains as existing along a spectrum where one day requires more effort at work and another demands more attention of your time at home. Obviously, the challenge is when work demands all of your attention and that it takes away from your home things that need to be done. Just accept it. Stop fighting it. You can't be both or all things to everybody. You must learn to compartmentalize as a leader because you're going to be pulled in all kinds of different directions. As a leader, when you start becoming a leader and you do well at it, NAFA is going to call and say, hey, would you be president? Hey, would you be secretary? Hey, would you be the pick chair with back chair? Hey, your Rotary's going to call and say, hey, we need a secretary for Rotary. And you've got great leadership skills. And you're going to be pulled into those directions. A nonprofit's going to call you because in golf courses or whatever it may be, people are going to call you and say, hey, I recognize your leadership skills because you work on it, you invest in yourself. You must learn to compartmentalize. For me, I do it this way. I have a Man Up and Go as my nonprofit that I helped start. So I have a Man Up mark. I have a One Source mark. I have a NAFA mark. I have a Rotarian mark, a son mark, a father mark, a grandson mark, a golf mark, and a workout mark. So I work very hard to balance all those parts of my life that I have to do, but you can't get 50-50. There's no way to have balance with all the things we do as leaders in our industry. So embrace that you are and will be pulled in all directions as a leader. Manage your time wisely and be super present in every aspect of your life and smash every goal that you set for yourself in all phases of who you are. This gentleman here is Roy Kern. Roy's been in the insurance business for a very long time, but he's been a member of NAFA for 40 plus years. A true legend in our industry here in Missouri, and just does a great job and a great advocate for NAFA. So when it comes to serving in our community, I want to talk about how we find ways to do that, how to give back and what to do that. But one of my favorite ways to serve in our community is through NAFA. For me, NAFA is my favorite way to lead in the community. By leading in NAFA, I get to serve my clients who are on Main Street America by advocating for them in great ways. Every single year, there is legislation that attacks our industry, as you well know, as NAFA members, hopefully. And so my way that I serve my community in NAFA is by going to Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., and Jefferson City, Missouri, our capital. I've been fortunate enough to meet all the congressmen and women and senators in Missouri. And why I do this is because our clients need us. And I go and be a voice for them. If you've not been a part of the advocacy part of NAFA thus far in your life in NAFA, my cell phone and my email is on the end of this conference, end of this Zoom meeting. I'd like for you to text me, call me, email me, and say, hey, I want to know how to get involved in Pennsylvania or wherever you're from, because I will find the right person to help you guys get involved. But this is a great way to serve your Main Street clients that need our attention. And by leading in NAFA, we're doing great things, not only for NAFA, but also for our communities that we work in every day. Another passion of mine, as I mentioned earlier, is Man Up and Go. It's a nonprofit that started in 2013, and our mission is to fight for the fatherless. And we believe where men refuse to step into the role they're called to fill, the world burns. And we see that in suicide rates, we see it in divorce rates and domestic violence rates, where the fatherless just don't have as good a chance to be, as contributing members of society as they could be. And why I'm passionate about it, because I grew up in a fatherless home and know the struggle of not having manly leadership and authentic manly leadership in the home. And so this is another way that I find that I can pour my leadership skills into my community and hopefully affect others that are around us that that need it more and more than I do. And as you see, I'm very proud of the picture there. Pretty proud of both pictures, but it's my family. And then one is me summiting Mount Kilimanjaro last February. We raised over $40,000 for our organization by doing that. And it's a small sacrifice to do things in our community, to lead in a way that that serves others and gives back to others. So I'd encourage you in your community, start with NAFA, small plug. Find a way to get plugged into NAFA and practice your leadership skills there. But then seek out other places in your life to pour your talents into that you're passionate about, that you find resonate with you, that drive you to be a better person and overall a better leader in your community. So in case you weren't listening to anything, like 30-second view of what we talked about. The first question I want you to ask yourself is, who will you lead? Who in your life, whether it be at work or home or in your community, who are you going to lead? Is it someone that's below you? Doesn't matter. Is it someone that's to the side of you, or is it someone that's above you? Who are you going to challenge yourself to pour into to make better because of your leadership? The next question I want you to ask yourself, what changes to your mindset or language do you need to make? What changes to your mindset or language do you need to make? Are you using terms like, he works for me, she works for me? Or do you work together? Are you part of a team? Is there something in your psyche and in the way you're saying things and doing things that you need to make changes to? And thirdly, what are you doing to invest in yourself as a leader? Are you taking extra leadership courses? Have you taken Lily yet? I strongly encourage that as well, of course, in the process of building yourself as a better leader. What books are you reading? What podcasts are you listening to? What are you doing, actively doing to invest in yourself as a leader? And then lastly, have you joined NAFA? NAFA is the most important membership you will have as a professional in our organization. And I will never, ever, ever not make the ask that you would be a member of NAFA if you're not on this call. It's imperative. It's changed my career. I honestly believe I've made more money in tens of thousands of dollars over what I've invested in my membership as a member of NAFA. Made relationships that I'll have forever, and made my business what it is. I know I wouldn't be where I'm at without NAFA in my career. So, any questions?
Mark, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you everyone else for being on the call today. If you have any questions for Mark, it sounds like this is the time. Yes, a virtual collab.
Well, one more thing, Zach, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Any questions at this point? Are we good?
I'm not seeing any.
Awesome. So I believe in my life, in my mindset, there are three types of people in this world. Three types. The first type are people who make things happen. People who just are go-getters, high achievers, and they don't fail. That's the first type of person. The second type of person is people who let things happen to them, right? They're always going, I don't know how this happened, right? What this happened, I just can't figure it out. And then the third type of person is the person who says, what the heck happened? They are blindsided by things all the time. So I'd encourage you to be the first type of person. Be the person that makes things happen. If you're going to be a better leader, you're going to have to invest in yourself. You're going to have to read, and have to pour into yourself and work hard to be that. And I believe if you do that, you'll be the type of person that makes it happen.
We did get a late entry question here.
Sure.
So what would you give as advice to someone on how to really reach out and find some sort of accountability partner in their field?
I have questions for that person. My first thought is, I like people who challenge me, right? So I don't like people who just are yes people, right? I'm a challenger, right? I want someone who's going to push me. For me, Corey Anderson's that. He's in Minnesota. He's a great member of NAFA, and we met in 2014. And he busts my chops, right? Are you sure this is what you need to do? Are you really working hard? So finding that person who challenges you is important, because you don't need someone just to vent to. You want someone to hold you accountable. And so finding that person, I easily, first of all, tell me where you're from. And if you don't have a NAFA member in your area, we'll find one. Because I find that all of the 20,000+ members of NAFA, there are so many people who want to give back and be mentors and have that accountability. So I'd look in your community, I'd look in your office, in your industry, and I would establish a set time. I would establish that every Friday we talk or have coffee or calls or whatever that might look like, or Zoom calls at this point in our time and in society. But I would establish a set regimen that we meet every Friday at 9 o'clock every single time without fail, and just make it a regimen. My questions I ask myself or ask Corey is, what did you do last week? What did you say you're going to do last week? What did you get done? What obstacles did you face? Those are 3 things we talk about. And we hold each other accountable to those goals. I know that if I want to make $1 million, I got to make X thousand dollars per day to do that. And we talk about what we made, and we do that. And so finding that person's maybe difficult, but look in NAFA, look in your office, look in your community, and find someone that's going to push you and that's willing to do the same, because you're going to do the same for them.
Awesome.
Any other questions? Oops.
Not that I see. Well, if that's all of our questions for today, then I would like to thank everybody for being on the presentation today. Please keep in mind that if you need to catch up on any previous recordings, maybe you didn't see one of them, reach out to me at recruitment@nafa.org. I would be happy to pass them along to you. I will put that email in the chat. Just send me a quick email and I'll pass on any of the recordings you may need. And then we can get the certificates out to you in the next couple weeks. And thanks again, everybody, for a great 4 weeks of this program. Really enjoyed it. Thought we had some great discussions. Mark, thank you again for your time today. Really, really appreciate having you on.
Thanks, guys.
Hope everyone has a great rest of their week. Stay safe out there.